All right, YouTube, what is going on? Welcome back to another video. And today we are talking about a very specific group of cards that have had some interesting movement in the market lately. Whether or not it is market manipulation, we don't really know. But we're going to take a look at a couple of the cards that have been affected in recent times because some of them have some really weird growth out of nowhere. And we're just going to take a look at what's involved. So I mentioned in a video a few days ago about the Drowsy card absolutely exploding out of nowhere. And so what I thought I would do is I would take a look at the artist, because Tomokazu Komiya is the artist that draws the Drowsy card, and a bunch of their other cards or their other illustrations are starting to make some moves as well. So we're going to go through and have a look at them in a similar way that we went and looked at the Drowsy. Now, before we get into the other cards, I just want to say thank you for the support. We're almost at 2,000 subscribers now. And like I've mentioned in previous videos, we are doing a giveaway at 3,000 subscribers. So make sure if you're brand new to the channel, subscribe to the channel, comment down below and leave a like on this video, because I will be picking somebody from the comments when we hit 3,000 subscribers to give away our next prize too. Now, jumping into Komiya's sort of art gallery here, there's a lot of cards that we can kind of go through. We're going to start on page 1 and we're going to look at some of the big hitters first. This is sorted from like the highest price value to the lowest. One of the main ones is the Gengar Master Ball in Pokemon 151. There is also a Politoed from Neo Discovery. And then the number 3 card from the whole portfolio of Komiya is the Drowsy, which is really, really interesting. Sitting at $73 market price right now. We obviously talked about this a lot, so I'm going to just quickly touch on this and then we'll get into the other ones. But Drowsy seeing 438% increase over the last 3 months. And then if you pull it into the 1-year graph, it has seen a 1,400% increase, 1,435 to be exact, which is absolutely bonkers. Now, there was a lot sold of this card in recent times. So 167 was sold between Feb 17th and Feb 22nd, 141 sold between Feb 10th and Feb 16th, and then 76 items sold the week before. So there has been kind of a run up and a progressively more selling as we go through. The Drowsy, again, it's, known for having bad centering, print lines. The actual print quality itself has been really bad, and the price of a PSA 10 is extremely high, which is why this Drowsy saw some growth, or at least that's what we thought, because now there's a bunch of cards from the same artist blowing up, and a few of them, believe it or not, are from the early Scarlet Violet sets that are now making waves, because these are all jumping in price as well. So Paldea Evolved had all of the same issues that Scarlet Violet base had, like the Drowsy, bad centering, bad print lines, all of the above. Corners were bad. Everything was sort of just a bit off with the printing. I don't know if they were trying to print too much or too quickly, or however that kind of works. Maybe it's different factory to factory, but there were just a lot of defects with certain cards. Now we're going to look at Frigibacks to start with, and kind of the evolution line there. This card, all the way up until literally February 16th, February 19th, was a $12 card. Now all of a sudden it has jumped to a $32 card. So current market price for the Frigibacks is $32.90, which is a 427% increase. And most of it is coming in the last couple of days. Literally the last like 4 days, this has jumped from $13.37 to $32. So nearly 300% in the last 4 days, basically, which is ridiculous. And again, it is by the same artist. You then move into the Arctibacks, which again, that same similar sort of art style from Komiya that we saw on the Drowsy, on the Frigibacks. This one is up 984% in the last 3 months, which is ridiculous. And when you pull this one into the 1-year chart, it's up 1,651%. This was a $3 card, pretty much $2.73 a year ago. And you look at it now and it's a $45 market price card, which again, nobody was really interested in this. Like 64 items sold, 72 items sold, 44, 62, 63. And all of a sudden we get 114 items sold in a week or in a 5-day span. And that shoots the price up and it absolutely rockets to $45, which is crazy. Baxcalibur, again, another one. that has just jumped up in price. This, about a week ago, was a $21 card. It's now a $54 card, seeing a 476% increase in the last 3 months. In the last year, it's 400%. So this one was always a little bit more expensive in the beginning. It wasn't a $2 card. It wasn't a $3 card. It was about the $10 mark for the most part of the last year. And then come end of January, it was about $13. And now it's sitting at 54. So this is another one. And again, they're nice artworks. Like, I really like Komiya's art style. But when you go back to the portfolio, these are the first few like illustration rares that Komiya has covered. And it almost looks like we're going to get one of those Shinji Kanda type effects where everything they touch turns to gold. But I still prefer Shinji Kanda's artwork over Komiya's. Not to say that, Komiya doesn't have nice cards, because there are a ton on here. But I think as far as illustration rares go, when you look at someone like Shinji Kanda, you've got the Giratina from Lost Origin, you've got the Magikarp from Paldea Evolved, those like really big hitters. I don't think they're going to get to quite that level, as much as I think maybe the Drowsy can compete with the Magikarp. I don't think it's quite going to be the same effect. However, some of these other artworks are really jumping in price. So it could be that Komiya is starting to get the recognition as an artist that is deserved, because again, these cards are really nice, or there's something a little bit fishy going on in terms of market manipulation. Because if there is somebody to go and buy out all of the copies here on TCG Player, it is going to jump in price. So you can see a lot of cards here selling for around the $55 to $60 mark. If these were to all be bought up and then the pricing, all that was left was like $65, $70 cards, the market value of this card would go up as well. So it's just a matter of whether more keeps selling through on TCG Player as to whether this actually goes up or not. But it's something interesting to keep an eye on. The other two I wanted to touch on are two of Komiya's other artworks from a bit more recent time, without sort of going back to Neo or anything like that, like some of the early artworks that they did. But this one is the Chilling Reign Galarian Slowking V. This one's had steady increase, and this is a more natural progression in price that you would see from a card that is starting to go out of print. It's a little bit harder to find the set it's from. And just as it becomes less available, starts to go up in value. So this one in the last 3 months has seen an 80% increase, and in the last year has seen a 130% increase. So that's kind of a more normal progression. It had a little bit of a bump here from $28 up to $40, dropped back down to $29, and now it's sort of up at $63. But again, if we look in this last week, 52 items sold, as opposed to 11 items sold, 8 items sold, 6, 5. So again, it's almost like they're targeting Komiya's artworks to be bought up on purpose, which is making a lot of these cards rise up really quickly. Because for something that's been selling less than 10 copies a week all the way for the last like 6 to 12 months, to then go and do 52 items in a 5-day period just seems really interesting to me. And it almost seems like this card could potentially be part of that market manipulation as well. The last card I wanted to touch on is the Eevee and Snorlax GX promo. And again, this is a promo card, so it's a little bit harder to find now from that Sun and Moon era. You're not really going to find the tins around that these came from. So this one hasn't seen a spike in increase. And again, from the same artist, but has not seen that spike in pricing. Its market price is around $60, which it's kind of been around the $60 since the middle of December. So it had a bit of a climb late November, early December from $37 up to $60. And it's kind of sat stable at $60 for the past sort of 3 months. So it's hard to say, is it the illustration rares mainly that are going to continue to be targeted, or is it the artists themselves that is going to be targeted on a whole? Or is it just something that, we don't really know the explanation of, and we'd have to wait for someone to make a statement about what this is. But when you look at the data, again, this one's gone from 6 items sold, 5 items sold, 2 items sold, 1 item sold, to all of a sudden 49 items sold this week. And that's in a 2-day period, 3-day period, Feb 19th to Feb 21st, 49 of these sold all of a sudden. So I'm going to say it now, but I feel like this Eevee and Snorlax is about to go from 60 to 80. potentially even more, 60 to 90. You know, there's maybe 7 cards here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards before we get to $65. 8 cards to sell before we get to $69 on this list. And there's not a lot listed. And then you've got some at 70, some at 75. And then once you sell through those, it jumps from $75 to $90. So if you have this Eevee and Snorlax, be prepared. There's potentially a huge increase coming in the near future and the lowest from a start seller is $75. So I can imagine that this card is about to pop the same way all of these other artworks have. So I hope this has given you a little bit of insight as to what to look for when you're potentially looking at investing in a card. And when it seems like all of these other cards are being manipulated, you can almost predict what's going to come next. And like, it's not perfect, it's not foolproof, but this is an educated guess as to the next card that is going to pop. And seeing that in the last 3 days, this has already sold 49 items after not even selling 49 items in the last like 6 months, I think we're going to see this card jump as well. So use that as you will. If you want to go and buy a bunch of these, go and buy a bunch of these. But again, it is at your own risk. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just looking at the data and telling you what I see and what I think. But with that said, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you guys so much for tuning into another one, and I will see you guys next time.